Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. We are all gonna die. I don't mean to make you panic, but it is time to panic. This is from Astrum Earth.
This is the most important video you are ever going to watch, and it's why I'm here on screen talking to you today, because humanity has lost the fight against climate change.
Okay, we're done. We are cooked. For educational purposes, we will be excerpting briefly from parts of this video to learn about panic mode.
Please, we all are. This video is based not on my opinions or anyone here at Astrum Earth, but in true Astrum Earth style, this is based on science. All right, let's get into it. I'm James Stewart, and you're...
All right, science, ladies and gentlemen. Believe what you hear in this video because it's science.
The dentist-approved way to clean your retainer. Just water and the touch of a button.
If you wear your retainer every night like I do, you know.
At the end of this video, you'll see why every one of those meetings failed, and why actually the most dangerous decade to be alive is the one we're living in right now.
This is the most dangerous decade to be alive in the history of mankind. This decade is it. This is the inflection point. This is the turning point. You are living it now. All other humans have led up to this most important point for all of humans from this point forward, and in fact for the entire planet. Everybody and everything is at stake in the next few years. This is an absolute dire emergency. All right, this is absolutely serious, ladies and gentlemen. We're not messing around. Everybody and everything could die.
Interference with the climate system. Chance number one to save the world.
Chart number one to save the world. We're talking about saving the world, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a joke. The people who are on the side of this are on the side of saving the world. The people who are against this are so evil, like they're so bad.
Went about as well as you might expect. In the subsequent years, the planet did actually cool down, but not due to government action, but because of a huge volcanic eruption.
Lol. And what if some of the data is not true and some of the increase isn't even real? Oh, that would be crazy, wouldn't it? But anyways, we do need to panic, because even though the Earth did cool down for a couple years, it's still panic time.
Now, here's the good stuff, because in 2015, nearly the entire world, 195 odd nations, came together at the United Nations held International Climate Meeting, or COP21, to sign the Paris Agreement. And that date in December 2015 should have been remembered as the day the human race came together and saved the world.
But it was just a bunch of bureaucrats getting together, and everything continued as per normal after that, so they didn't save the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the world is at stake here. We've got to save the world.
Then, owing to self-interest, economic inequalities, and some would say downright greed.
Oh, that's the reason. What did he say? Self-interest, economic inequalities, i.e. rich people, and greed. Okay? Why has this happened?
I don't think I need to tell you what happened here, do I? Once again, owing to self-interest, economic inequalities, and some would say downright greed. Spoiler alert, current end-of-century predictions place us...
Due to selfishness and greed, we are going to have a very high temperature by the end of this century. Because of selfishness and greed, the world is going to be destroyed and everyone is going to die because of selfish, greedy people. We just need to find out who those people are. Now, it turns out that there's a group of like 30 companies that have emitted like 70% or 60% of all emissions in the last 50 years or something like that. Those are the ones they're going to go after. So it's a witch hunt. They are going to find big, juicy targets, and they're going to rip them apart.
Okay, good news. It's still 2018 at this point, remember. There's still time to act. So, did we listen to that warning?
No, of course not. There was time to act in 2018. Remember, we're past that. The time to act is gone. There's no more time. We're out of time. Look at this chart. This is if we want to save the world.
1.5 degrees, then global CO2 emissions will need to peak by 2025 at the latest, and then fall by 43% in time for 2030. That's relative to 2019 levels. And methane emissions, well, they'd need to...
CO2 emissions have to, that's 2025 right there, that line. CO2 emissions have to peak there and fall below zero. This is what they wanted. Now it's actually going to go like that. So, yeah, that's, this down here is pure fantasy. And that really would kill everybody and everything. If we took oil down that low, if we took CO2 emissions down that low, it really would destroy civilization, and there would be virtually no one left, and then of course all the greenies would be gone, and then we could rebuild civilization again. That's what would happen. And even if you do save the Earth from climate change, there's going to be another ice age sometime in the next few thousand years. So, and the Earth's going to keep getting warmer until then. There's nothing we can do about that. It's the Milankovitch cycles.
To drop by about a third in the same time frame.
All right, the next bit, 2045 is a little ahead.
Nothing short of a brief history lesson, really. But what comes next is the part that decides whether this century is survivable.
Oh God, we could all die this century. All right, so maybe not everybody's going to die immediately, but this century everybody could die. It could end the world this century. So it's time to panic, ladies and gentlemen. The fun part's over. We all had fun having plastic and everything. We got to stop all that. No more plastic, no more cars. Fun part's over. Or else we're all going to die. Now look at this. Heat-related mortality. Who ever heard of heat-related mortality? I started hearing about it like in the probably 2005-ish, 8-ish era. Maybe it's not that old. I don't know. I don't know how long it goes back. 10, 15 years? Maybe it's been that recent since they started reporting heat wave deaths. I mean, I remember clear back in the 90s, people would die during heat waves, and they would say, 7 old people died in our apartments or anything. But the UN wasn't tracking it, right? So this is the perfect type of thing to invent a statistic and say, there's this thing called heat wave deaths. And then the problem is the first year you report all the cities that, Paris is like, yes, heat wave deaths. We had heat wave. London's like, oh, yeah, heat wave deaths. New York City, yes, heat wave deaths. And places like Mexico City and Peru and stuff, they're like, what are you talking about? They don't even have anybody on the phone to talk to you. But 5 or 10 years down the road, you get everybody else involved. And you call Indonesia and you say, heat wave deaths? And they say, oh, we heard of that. Yeah, we had some of those, right? You invent this category and then it keeps growing. So the more you add to it over time, the bigger it gets. That's not really growth in the category. But let's say it is. Let's say heat deaths are rising and we're all going to die. Give them the benefit of the doubt. They don't have much else to go on. So, sure, heat deaths on the rise. Gotcha.
Billions of people would be impacted. The best case scenario is arguably still horrendous. And if that doesn't piss you off enough...
All right, did you get that? Billions of people could be impacted by something, he said, whether we don't lower emissions or whatever. If that doesn't piss you off, he wants you to be pissed. He wants you to be emotional. He wants you to panic. It's the end of the world. We've passed deadlines. Nobody's doing anything. And the only real problem, ladies and gentlemen, the only real issue here is selfish, greedy people. That's really the only thing stopping us from saving the world is selfish, greedy people.
We might cut this bit out. Anyway, in the 12 months leading up to 2025, governments awarded 492 new oil and gas exploration licenses globally.
That's hilarious because I heard we had peak oil way back in like 2005 or 2007. They said we've peaked. Oil's peaked. It's going to fall from here on out. We're going to have less oil. We're going to run out of oil. Oil's all going to be gone. Everybody is going to die because we are running out of oil, and we haven't yet figured out how to do solar panels and windmills for everything. So we're all going to die. There was a huge panic, and of course it was not peak oil. Oil's just gone up, and it's going to continue to go up. We're going to produce more and more oil for the continuing decades. So, do you remember the peak oil panic? Well, he's upset now because we're producing more oil, as we should be, because it's a good thing. And this news, 492 new exploration permits globally, that's good news for people who live on Earth and want to be comfortable and happy. So, thank you for announcing a little bit of good news in your video, Mr. Astrom, or whatever his name is.
With climate change predictions. For example, in the United States in 2023, they suffered a record number of billion-dollar weather disasters, things like wildfires, hurricanes, severe storms, which NOAA tallied at 28 separate major events. Globally, we've seen unprecedented...
All right, so we never had so many billion-dollar disasters as that year. That could be because inflation, could be because of growth of the economy. It could be because of measurements, could be because we have built up places where it used to be a flood didn't matter and now it costs a lot of money. That could be it. Or it could be that everything's getting worse and we're all going to die.
In wildfire seasons, as in Canada and Australia.
So Canada and Australia had big wildfire seasons.
Deadly heat waves, I think back to 2022 in South Asia or 2023 even in the Mediterranean. Intense floodings like we've seen in Pakistan.
Okay, guess what? The intense floodings that we saw in Pakistan pale in comparison to what we saw 100 years ago or 50 years ago or 70 years ago or 90 years ago or 80 years ago. You can go back and look at the Great Beijing Flood of 1921 or 26 or whatever, and the horrendous floods in India of this particular year or that particular year. And China, oh my God, in the 1990s, China had the biggest floods. 300 million people were made homeless. 300 million people were homeless in China in the 1990s because of flooding. Okay? We have never had less people die from natural disasters in the history of humanity, a smaller percentage of us. So it is not getting worse. This list he just gave here, all these different things, what about them?
These kinds of extremes regularly make the headlines now. They've become normal. Climate change has moved from a future threat to a present-day emergency.
There we are, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a future threat. It is a emergency. Now! Oh my God, we've got to do something, or everybody's going to die. Panic mode. Now, one thing you might find interesting is that the temperature people who gather these temperatures, NOAA and stuff, have found to be doing some very suspicious stuff, like putting thermometers in the middle of parking lots, putting them near heat vents, putting them near AC units, and having them in a place that gets built up and then keeping them there and updating them and not moving them to some place that measures the ambient temperature more accurately, having them right next to a concrete wall. So the fact that temperature sensors 10 or 15 years ago were placed much more carefully and now are placed seemingly wantonly in order to get higher temperature readings, that isn't mentioned in here. He doesn't care about that scandal. He doesn't care about the fact that people, have exposed these sorts of playings with all of the statistics. Like these statistics that he's giving these things a serious life and death science, and they are not. They are jerry-rigged and absolutely made up, and exaggerated, And, you know, we had these deadlines in 2005. Everybody was going to die if we didn't have this and that done by 2005 and 2008 and 2012, 2015. And now it's 2025 and we passed that. So we're going to die. So they're going to have to make up new deadlines. It's going to have to be 2030 and then 2035. We're going to have new deadlines for the emergency, ladies and gentlemen. So for the meantime, the deadline is postponed. We're going to have to come up with a new deadline. 2025 is no longer the deadline.